Hey fam. Welcome back to the channel. I'm so glad you're here with me today. Let's be real. Have you ever been scrolling through Instagram or TikTok and thought, why is everyone out there getting engaged, promoted, or just living their best life, while I'm here eating cereal for dinner? I know that feeling all too well. Sometimes, it's like the whole world is moving at lightning speed, and no matter how hard you try, you feel stuck, like you're always one step behind. Today, we're diving deep into a topic that hits close to home for so many of us: how to trust God when your life feels behind everyone else's. If you're a millennial, Gen Z, or just someone who's ever felt overwhelmed by comparisons, trust me, this message is for you. I remember a time when I felt completely invisible in a world that seemed to celebrate everyone's big moments. I'd see my friends posting about new jobs, relationships, and adventures, and I'd wonder, when will my turn come? It can be really disheartening to feel like you're the only one not living that picture-perfect life. But here's something I want you to know: you are not alone, and you are not forgotten. Today, I want to share with you some truths that have helped me trust in God's perfect timing. We live in a rushed world where everything seems to happen in the blink of an eye, yet God's plan for each of us unfolds at its very own pace. It might be hard to believe sometimes, especially when you're in the middle of your own struggle, but His timing is always perfect, even when it feels delayed. So, sit back, relax, and let's talk about how we can find peace when life seems to be running a race we never signed up for. Let's talk about embracing where you are right now, even if it looks different from what you see online. I promise by the end of this video, you'll see that being behind isn't a sign of failure. It's just a part of your unique journey. I want you to remember this as we move through today's message. Your life is a masterpiece in progress, painted by the greatest artist of all time. We're here to learn how to stop comparing our chapter 3 with someone else's chapter 20 and to trust that every moment, every delay, and every setback is part of a bigger, beautiful plan. Let's dive in. Let me get personal for a moment. Last year was one of the toughest seasons of my life. I remember feeling like I was stuck in a loop of what-ifs and comparisons. It was a time when my best friend was buying her first house, my cousin was preparing for her wedding, and every scroll on my social media feed was filled with people celebrating huge wins, like being featured on 30 under 30-foot lists or landing their dream jobs. Meanwhile, I was just trying to keep up with freelance gigs and swiping endlessly on dating apps. It felt like I was missing the memo on life. There were days I would sit alone in my room, feeling completely overwhelmed by the pressure to hustle faster or to catch up to everyone else's milestones. I remember one evening when I looked at my phone, and instead of feeling grateful for my little wins, I was flooded with a sense of "Did you forget about me, God?" I cried out, feeling invisible and left behind. I questioned why it seemed like everyone else was getting their big break while I was stuck in the same place. I know many of you feel that same way. Maybe you're just starting out in your career, or you're still trying to figure out relationships, or perhaps you're just feeling the weight of the world as you juggle endless responsibilities. I felt that too. And I learned something very important during that dark time. Society tells us to rush and compare, but God gently reminds us to trust more deeply. I began to realize that every moment I felt left behind was actually a moment where God was preparing something better for me. It wasn't an accident or mistake. It was a part of a larger story that only God can write perfectly. It wasn't easy to see at first. I had to learn to stop measuring my progress by the achievements of others and instead focus on the little steps I was taking each day, even if they seemed insignificant. I started writing down the small victories, like finishing a project I'd been dreading or having a genuine conversation with a friend who understood my struggles. Over time, I noticed that these little moments were signs of growth and transformation. They reminded me that even when I felt like I was behind, I was still moving forward. And that forward movement was something to be celebrated. What I want you to take away from my story is this: If you're feeling like you're not where you should be, remember that you're exactly where you need to be right now. God's timeline isn't like our timeline. While we might be impatient and desperate for quick fixes, God is working in ways that are far bigger and more meaningful than what we see on social media. There's a season for every purpose under heaven, and sometimes the waiting period is where the most growth happens. It took time, and it took learning to trust that even in the silence or the waiting, God was still present. I began to see that my struggles weren't a sign of being forgotten. They were a reminder that something better was on its way. And slowly, step by step, I learned to embrace my journey, with all its twists and turns. So if you're sitting there feeling like you're not catching up, remember, you are on your own unique path. Every delay, every setback, and every quiet moment is a part of a bigger plan that's unfolding just for you. Trust that your story is being written with purpose and love. Let's take a moment to look at what the Bible has to say about timing and purpose. I want you to hear these stories with an open heart, because each one tells us that God's timing is never a mistake. It's always perfect. Think about Moses. Moses was 80 years old when God called him to lead the Israelites out of Egypt. Imagine that, a man who most people would consider too old to start something new, suddenly becomes the leader of an entire nation. His life didn't begin with instant success. It began with years of waiting, learning, and preparing. God had a plan that took time to unfold, and every year of Moses' life was part of that perfect timing. Then there's Joseph. Joseph faced more than his fair share of hardships. He was betrayed by his own brothers, sold into slavery, and later thrown into prison on false accusations. It seemed as if everything was going wrong for him. But here's the amazing part. Even in the darkest moments, God was working behind the scenes. Joseph's journey of trials and tribulations ultimately led him to a position where he could save not only his own family, but also entire nations from famine. His story teaches us that what may look like a delay or a setback is really God setting the stage for something far greater. And let's not forget about Jesus. Yes, Jesus is our greatest example of perfect timing. He didn't start his ministry until he was 30 years old. All the years before that, he was growing, learning, and preparing for the mission he would eventually undertake. When you consider all these stories, one thing becomes clear. God's timing is never rushed or delayed by our own standards. It's exactly what it needs to be. I'd like to share a verse with you from Ecclesiastes 3 verse 11 that always brings me comfort. He has made everything beautiful in its time. This isn't just a poetic line. It's a powerful reminder that our lives are unfolding according to a divine schedule. When we compare our timeline with someone else's, we miss out on seeing the beauty in our own story. We forget that God is not in a hurry. He is meticulously crafting each chapter of our lives. When we allow ourselves to compare, we let doubt and discouragement creep in. We lose sight of the purpose and potential that God has placed within us. Every waiting period, every season of silence, every moment that seems like a delay is actually an opportunity for growth and transformation. These are the times when God is teaching us to trust Him more deeply, to rely on His wisdom rather than our own. I know it's easy to get frustrated when you're waiting for things to change, for that breakthrough moment to finally arrive. But let me encourage you. Trust that every moment of waiting is an investment in you. Think of it like a seed planted in the soil. It doesn't sprout overnight. It needs time, nourishment, and patience before it grows into something beautiful. In the same way, your dreams, your relationships, and your calling all need time to blossom. The Bible is filled with stories that remind us of this truth. When you look at the lives of people like Moses, Joseph, and even Jesus, you see that God's plan is always unfolding in His own perfect time. It might not be the timeline we expected or wanted, but it is a timeline that works for our ultimate good. Trusting God's timing means believing that every delay is not a denial, but a redirection. It means accepting that even when life seems to be on hold, God is busy working behind the scenes to prepare you for something amazing. So, next time you find yourself wondering why things aren't happening as fast as you'd like, remember these stories. Remember that your waiting period is not wasted time. It's a season of preparation, growth, and hope. God's resume of perfect timing is written in the lives of those who have gone before us. And just like them, your life is a testimony to the beauty of divine timing. Every moment of waiting is a moment of trust, a moment of faith, and a moment of transformation. Now that we've talked about trusting God's timing through these powerful biblical examples, let's get practical. I know it can be really tough to put trust into action when you're bombarded with messages to hustle harder every minute of your day. So here are 3 practical steps you can take right now to help you embrace your journey and stop comparing your progress to someone else's highlight reel. Step 1. Social media detox. Let's face it, social media is a double-edged sword. It can inspire us, but it can also make us feel like we're not measuring up. My first step is to take a break from the feeds that drain you. Unfollow or mute accounts that make you feel less than or that trigger those negative comparisons. Instead, follow accounts that uplift and encourage you. Look for pages that share real-life stories, spiritual encouragement, and messages of hope. By curating your feed, you create a digital space that nourishes your soul rather than depletes it. Think of this detox as a reset button. It isn't about cutting off your world entirely. It's about filtering out the noise so you can hear your own inner voice and God's gentle guidance. If you ever catch yourself spiraling into endless comparisons, take a moment, breathe, and remember, your worth isn't defined by likes or followers. It's defined by God's love for you. Step 2. Gratitude journaling. Gratitude is a powerful antidote to the feeling of being left behind. Start by writing down 3 things that God has done for you this week. They can be as small as a smile from a stranger, a good cup of coffee, or a moment of unexpected peace in a busy day. The act of writing these moments down rewires your brain to see the positive, even on days when nothing seems to be going right. I started my own gratitude journal when I first felt overwhelmed by life's challenges. Every night before bed, I jot down even the tiniest win or moment of grace. Over time, I noticed that I was less anxious about what I didn't have and more focused on what I did. This simple practice shifted my mindset from scarcity to abundance, and I began to see that every little step forward was a blessing. Trust me, this small change can make a huge difference in how you feel about your journey. Step 3. Find your tribe. Isolation can be one of the biggest drivers of comparison. When you feel alone, it's easy to spiral into negative self-talk. Instead, reach out and connect with people who understand what you're going through. Join a small group at your church. Find an online community that shares your struggles and successes, or simply DM a friend who gets it. Having a supportive network means you have a safe space to share your doubts, your wins, and your journey. I remember reaching out to a friend during one of my lowest points. We started sharing our personal stories and prayed for each other. That connection not only helped me see my own worth but reminded me that I wasn't alone on this path. Together, we celebrated every little victory and held each other up during the tough times. Community is a powerful reminder that God's work in our lives is not meant to be a solo project. When you implement these steps, you create a foundation of trust and self-care. Instead of wasting time worrying about the success of others, you start to nurture your own journey. Every time you disconnect from a toxic feed, every time you write in your journal, and every time you reach out to someone who understands, you're choosing to invest in yourself. You're saying, I trust that my path is being paved by a loving, patient God. And remember, it's okay to take baby steps. Changing habits doesn't happen overnight. But every small change you make is a victory, a moment where you choose to believe in God's perfect timing over society's rush. In those moments, you're not just waiting, you're growing, learning, and preparing for the amazing things God has in store for you. So, let's commit together to make these practical steps a part of our daily routine. Trusting God's timing isn't just about waiting. It's about actively nurturing your spirit and creating an environment where His plan can flourish. And as you do, you'll find that each day brings you closer to the breakthroughs you've been praying for. Now, let's take a moment to come together in prayer. I invite you to find a quiet space, close your eyes if you're comfortable, and join me as we speak to God. Let's open our hearts and surrender our need to rush, to compare, and to worry about what comes next. Let's trust that God's plan is unfolding just as it should. Dear God, I come before you with a heart that is both hopeful and weary. I confess that sometimes I struggle to see the beauty in the waiting, to understand why I haven't yet experienced the breakthroughs I long for. Forgive me for the moments when I doubted your love and your perfect timing. Help me to remember that every pause in my journey is a moment of growth and a sign of your care. Lord, I surrender my timeline into your hands. I know that I am not meant to rush through life, nor should I compare my journey to that of others. Each day, each moment, is a gift from you, a chance to learn, to heal, and to trust in the promise that you have made everything beautiful in its time. When I feel overwhelmed by the noise of the world and the pressure to keep up, remind me of your gentle whisper, trust deeper, not faster. Help me to embrace the quiet moments, knowing that in these times, you are working in ways I cannot yet see. Fill my heart with gratitude for every small win, every lesson learned, and every step forward, no matter how small it may seem. Strengthen my faith, Lord, and help me to see myself through your loving eyes, a masterpiece in progress. I pray for anyone watching who feels left behind or lost in comparison. May they find comfort in knowing that their worth is not measured by the pace of the world, but by your unwavering love. Unite us in the understanding that we are all on unique journeys, and that every delay is part of your divine plan. Grant us the courage to step away from comparison and to walk confidently in the path you have set before us. In this quiet moment, I choose to let go of my fears and my impatience. I choose to trust in your perfect timing. Remind me daily that your plans are worth the wait, and that each pause in my life is a stepping stone toward the amazing future you have prepared. In Jesus' name, I pray. Amen. Take a deep breath now, and let the peace of God fill your heart. Remember, you are exactly where you're supposed to be. Each moment, whether filled with joy or challenge, is part of a beautiful tapestry that only God can weave. Rest in that truth, and know that as you wait, He is working on your behalf, preparing, molding, and shaping you into who you're meant to be. Thank you so much for spending these moments with me today. If what we talked about resonated with you, even in the smallest way, please give this video a thumbs up. If you're ready to stop rushing God's clock and start embracing your own journey, drop a clock hash in the comments below. I really want to know, in what area of your life do you feel behind? Is it your career, your relationships, or maybe just the overall pace of life? Share your story, because your voice matters and your journey is important. Remember, you are not alone in this feeling. Every one of us has moments of doubt and impatience, but together we can remind each other that our delays are not denials, they are divine timing. I'm praying for you this week, that you will find comfort in the waiting and strength in every small victory. Also, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you don't miss our next video. Next week, we'll dive into another important topic, when God's silence feels loud. I promise you, it's going to be another heart-to-heart where we unpack life's challenges and find hope together. Before I go, remember this, your life is unfolding exactly as it should. Every moment of waiting is an invitation to trust more deeply and to grow stronger in faith. You're on a unique journey, and your story is being written with purpose and love. Take care of yourself, be kind to yourself, and know that you are cherished. Thank you for being here today and for sharing this moment with me. I'm sending you all my love and prayers. Until next time, keep trusting, keep growing, and keep believing in the beauty of your timing. Love you all. Bye for now.